Welcome to the world of stand-up. See, I have this theory. I love this theory.
Yeah.
When it comes to podcasting and conversations within a podcast, you want people to think that they were missing something before it got started. So we just kind of roll and
Well,
then...
they did. I mean,
of course they were, because we were talking...
missed out on the joke.
All the gossip we were talking about. Oh my gosh.
The shoes.
Hashtag Asian women. All right. You and I will know what that means.
Yeah.
It's
no
going to be a
one
fun
else will
inside
ever.
joke. Nobody. Okay.
Till the end of time.
So, Beth Clifford.
Yeah. Hello.
Thank you for coming on my show.
Thanks for having me. This is very exciting for me.
I've had this conversation with you in my head a little bit because I'm like, you're only the second woman that I've had on the show. The other one is my lovely wife, Amy.
Wow. I mean, it's great company then.
Clearly, she's amazing.
She is.
And then I thought, well, if I was to point that out, I'd have all these basic bitches that want to get on my show now, and I can't now have that. There's a standard when it comes to high-level women.
Yeah. When you say women, obviously there's like a lot of subcategories there. So just saying I'm going to have women on my podcast, it's just, no, there's a little bit more into it.
True. Is that your phone?
Yeah. I didn't want it here to distract me, so I threw it across the room. Just didn't want it here.
I love it. No, that's better than you being on your phone. I needed a break from it,
otherwise that would be distracted. So I didn't want to be, Bryce. I wanted to give you my full attention.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
I put lipstick on. You're welcome.
Great. Thank you for reiterating what you just said before we started recording, which is that looks don't matter all the time.
I said looks are important. They matter. It's just not everything.
Right.
It's twofold.
That's actually a very powerful statement. They matter, but they're not everything. Of course they matter.
There is a currency in beauty, and anyone who denies that is because they're either insecure or they don't want to invest in their beauty or take care of themselves.
Or both.
Or they don't want to have to acknowledge that it's a fact. It's an uncomfortable fact, but it's been the way beauty has mattered. Women haven't been investing, and men, in the way they look for centuries. Now they just have a lot more available to them,
options,
and we can also see how everyone looks from social media. We can see people that we don't even know on how they look. But, I mean, Great Depression, one of the most popular SKUs in that time was red lipstick. Women couldn't feed their families, but they still wanted to feel like they looked good.
Is that true?
That is a true statement.
That is an incredible stat. So red lipstick has some sort of, back then at least.
Back then
it still does. It's a very iconic look.
It
like
is,
the
but
bright
back then in the 50s, or when I'm not a
Great Depression was in
it?
1929, so there's that.
Oh, there we go. So there you go. In 1929, flapper period, right? Red lipstick was a staple for women.
Right.
And even when they couldn't have the other luxuries in life, they wouldn't give up the red lipstick.
So what's the red lipstick of 2022?
Oh, gosh. Well, now the list is endless. I think that I was listening to your podcast on beauty and how, people like to say it's not important. It is important. So there's that. I mean, I can give you a lot of beauty stats because I work in the industry, right? So
I'd like to go into that, and I also want to hear your opinion about that, and we'll have other things we're going to talk about.
Yeah, because there's 2 points. So I was like, we could talk about this for a long time, Bryce. And the first is it matters. And anyone who says it doesn't is lying, or they want to change something that's not going to change, or they feel insecure about theirs, so they don't want to have to believe it, in my opinion, which don't, because there's always things we can work on. But in 2020, so as the world is in pandemic, crazy time, $532 billion was spent in the globe in the beauty industry. I'm talking hair, makeup, surgery, Botox, anything to do, gyms, anything to do with the body and the way you look. $532 billion was spent across the globe when we were in pandemic mode. And guess what? It keeps growing. Every year it's going to grow, 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 grow. So don't tell me it doesn't matter. It matters.
So why is there, in your opinion, then why is there such a counter narrative that it matters when the dollars prove it does?
Well, I think it's because of number 2, and that is the fact that beauty isn't all that matters, and we do live in a society where either you're like, beauty's nothing, well, that's a lie, or beauty's everything, and that's a lie. And there are a lot of vapid people who think that all they need to invest in is the way they look. And hey, let's just talk about women real fast. That's not your only value, the way you look, right?
That was the coolest segue I've ever heard.
Hey, it's not the only value, the way you look. who's the most powerful woman in history that you can think of that was also drop dead gorgeous?
Princess Diana.
Further back.
Further back, Queen Elizabeth, maybe? I don't know.
Queen Cleopatra.
Oh, Cleopatra. Okay.
Right?
Aphrodite, maybe? I don't know.
Yes,
Okay.
all of these women were not only incredibly beautiful, but were smart. So, like, don't tell me that the most attractive person in the room.
Well, can I
is
add
who
to
you
that?
Look at.
They use their sexuality as well.
Well, right, that's part of it because they have a brain.
Right.
They have a brain, but
Wait, are you saying guys are susceptible to...
yeah. Otherwise, why would a woman? Women want to look good for other women and for other men. Imagine a beautiful woman up on stage, and then imagine a beautiful woman who's also smart, who is focused, who is funny. Who are they looking at?
The funny, smart one that's hot.
Right. But you need the beauty, but it's not enough. The most dangerous person in the room is, in my opinion, the smart, beautiful woman. Because
Yeah.
the women are looking at her and the men are looking at her.
There's an interesting distinction that I want to talk about there with you because men and women value beauty differently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I've had this happen many times in my life where it was either my wife or a girlfriend or whatever, where she'd be like, "You think she's hot?" I'm like, "She's smoking hot," and like they couldn't get it. There was something about the way that I was.
Always.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think that there's a standard that we both agree on, and then there are some men that women find attractive and men don't get, and vice versa. I think sometimes it's an energy, sometimes it's a confidence, sometimes it's not their face, and the men are just looking at their body, and the woman's looking at their face or their overall appearance.
Sure.
And, women are the harshest judgment on women. So, like, a man's like, "Is she hot? Yes or no?" A woman's like, "Well, look at her nails. Well, her hair's not brushed," or that they're
checklist.
critiquing on so much more than a man is critiquing on.
It's interesting.
That's just on looks, though.
Right. Well, there is a reality that your energy is a magnifier or a suppressant of your beauty.
Oh, for sure. We have all come into contact and think of someone who were like, okay, when I first met them, I was like, wow, that guy is so hot. After an hour, you're like,
And then he
oh,
opens
he's
his mouth and
not
you're like, oh,
attractive
he's
at
an idiot.
all. And then there are people that just like, oh, they're average, and then you get to know them, and they just become so attractive
Right.
to you, and vice versa. I mean, for men, it's the same with women. Like, there's a woman that you're like, oh, she's so beautiful, but dumber than a pile of bricks. So, again, it's not enough. Is it important? Absolutely. It's just not everything.
Right. So the conversation, if you recall, the conversation that led for your invitation to be on the show was I had posted a clip from one of my other podcasts. I'm trying to remember who it was with. It doesn't matter. Where I was talking about the demonization of beauty.
Right.
And how, if you look at, for example, the metaphor of the game of chess, it actually shows how susceptible men can be to beauty in a way that, like, on the chessboard, the king is the most important piece. The game is over when the king's done. He can only move one step at a time, while the queen, who's the second most important piece on the board, can go any direction in any that she wants. And there was this thought that, the queen can show up to the finish line and fuck the winner, and that women don't understand that power, that the only reason that happens is because of beauty and sexual connection that happens within men and women. And it doesn't work in the inverse. You never have high-powered women that are successful that will find the dumb guy to fuck because he's hot. They want more. Or they'll do it and they'll loathe it. And it'll be like this sort of thing where they don't like that about themselves because they feel like they're being like the guys.
Yeah, I think that you can't deny that that's been this way for centuries. I mean, countries went to war over men falling in love with women or desire. I mean, there's been bloodshed over it for centuries.
So where I was going with that, in your opinion, what's the point to demonize beauty by women or people? Because men do it too. You have, men that haven't been working on themselves that, try to act. This whole idea that the dad bod is attractive.
No,
I want a dad bod. No, you don't. Shut up. Like, that's just, there's a misunderstanding there. And I want to kind of discuss with you your opinion on why. Why is it that we can't embrace the fact that if you have an advantage if you lean into your beauty?
because it takes effort.
But does it?
Yeah, to eat a healthy life. So if we're talking about
effort, yes.
body,
effort,
yes. So to maintain it, yes. If you have it, it's just an extra skill set. We would never have someone who is more talented at a sport and then they get the advantage of going and playing in college and the NFL. We would never demonize them for that. Some people are just born with an advantage with the way they look, and to demonize them for that and in taking care of themselves is silly because we have so many resources now available to us for us all to look the best. Should we be all changing the way we look? Absolutely not. But we also shouldn't put zero effort into the way we look either. Because you tell on yourself. Like you tell on yourself every single time you show up somewhere looking like a slob. Like you tell on yourself. You tell on yourself every time you eat something garbage, you don't work out. Consistently, you're telling the world on who you are. So to demonize someone who takes care of themselves and is trying to look the best that they possibly can is unfair. And it's, in my opinion, comes from a level of insecurity.
Clearly, yeah.
Because everyone's view of what's beautiful is different. But I think that there's this level of, okay, well, I can't play in this competition realm, so I'm just going to destroy what it is. Like it's easy if I can't be in shape, if I'm a dad and I can't be in as much shape as that dad, I'm actually now going to make fun of him for being in shape, and I'm going to make the norm be here so that they're the ones on the out. If I can't be as attractive as I view that woman, I'm now going to make fun of attractive women and make it seem like it's actually cool to not be attractive. So they're the ones that are feeling insecure and not me. I mean, it's high school playgrounds all over again in adult form.
Yeah.
In adult form. But, you know, just people need to be going out there and changing the way they look? No, but you should be taking care of the way you look and be proud of it if you look good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a currency in that, and the people that are upset about it are the ones that don't have enough currency to play.
Well, I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson, and he talks about those that can't compete in the normal dominance hierarchies will create new ones so that they can be the winners of those dominance hierarchies. And when you come to, like, when you look at people that either don't have that just, not to sound rude, but just simply aren't beautiful, which is a reality. There's some people that are just ugly. Or they don't put the effort into caring for their body in a way that allows them to feel or be more attractive.
Fair.
They will create a different lane to which they can be at the top of.
Have you ever, so, you know, Brad was a collegiate athlete, didn't go to the NFL, but has a lot of friends that were, but we kind of moved circles in that realm.
Sure.
Have you ever watched sport game with someone who has never played on a collegiate level?
Most of the people I've watched sports with are like that. They're not.
It is so annoying to me to sit and listen to people critique other players and that coach shouldn't have done that, and these people are idiots. And I'm just like, well, you'd never ever be able to get on there. So instead of being like, oh man, that really sucks, like that person's injured or they're probably having a bad game, they want to just start like, this person's an idiot. Like it's almost like they get way too into it and start talking about it like they are a coach, like they are a player, like they know more than anyone else in the room. And it's because they couldn't play on that field. Like it's just once you're up on that lane, you have a different respect for what they're going through.
I don't think that stops just because you played college or you played at a certain level. I think there's a certain personality trait in some people that they'll judge no matter what. Like
we all like to judge. Human beings judge.
Sunday morning, watch all the former athletes talking shit on the players on the teams before the games that they're going to be reviewing, and watch them say, oh, he shouldn't have done this. They're being very critical, and some of these players aren't players that are even at their prime better than the people that are on the field now. They're just got a job in, sportscasting.
But they can in some way relate to what it took to do it.
Sure, I get that. But where I was saying is that like that idea that you can, it's a very interesting sort of conversation about at what point is it acceptable to critique and when is it? And so, but I get what you're saying.
I'm saying if you're not on the same playing field, then don't.
Right.
It's not acceptable to critique unless you've done it yourself, right? Like they say, no one that has achieved more than you is dogging on what you're doing. Right. It's always the people that haven't, so they're pointing at, it's like the crabs in the bucket, like they're wanting to pull you down to their level. unless you have been able to like compete. It's like watching Victoria's Secret models and being like, oh, well, man, she should have lost some weight there. Or like, why did they put her in that swimsuit? It's like, well, unless you are a Victoria's Secret model, which most of us aren't, maybe let's not critique them for what they're doing. It's just there's a level. And if you're not at that level, I don't feel like you have the right to have a say on it.
Okay, so is there a piece of that idea, though, that has allowed like Victoria's Secret to lower their standards on what their models are now and to have there be more of a push for dad bods and things like that? Or
there's a healthy limit,
I'm being
right?
facetious here, but I'm
No,
curious
I get what
about
you're saying. So I feel like yes and no. One, are you asking like, should we be pushing Victoria's Secret models to be anorexic and to be not eating, to be able to walk on the catwalk? No, ever. I'm never going to push for self-harm ever. Or beauty is not tied to body size either. But I also do not agree with how we're applauding unhealthiness. And because it makes people feel comfortable.
right.
It's not comfortable. And long term, you're not going to be comfortable when you're giving yourself diseases because of what you've chosen and the world's clapped you on.
Well, that's, I think, one of the biggest dangers. I would have to disagree with you in that beauty can be attached to body size. Like there's a certain point where it's not beautiful. And it's completely...
Well, yes. There's a certain point for everything. It's also, if it's too thin, it's not beautiful.
Of course, yeah. Where I was going with that, though, is that my problem... there's all these moving parts, and I'm trying to kind of figure out what's really going on because... excuse me. Like in that, we have magazines that have the word health in the title of the magazines, parading things that are so unhealthy that have historically been considered reasons for dying. And now it's like this new positivity movement of that. And it seems dangerous when it comes to like those ideas being in the heads and hearts of, younger people that are susceptible to that. And so there's that, and then there's, the critiquing of people on a sports field when you don't know what you haven't been in that shoe to understand the pressure of what it would be to where you're forgiving of a mistake or a lack of performance. And then you have, this demonization of beauty and that there's some sort of fear associated with embracing the fact that that's something that I want. Like I think there's kind of a two-sided piece to that when it comes to the demonization of beauty. It's not just people demonizing it. It's that, like, if I want to be better, there's a demonization. Like when Adele, for example, lost all that weight, like she got fat shamed for it, saying that she was, and I've seen on TikTok and other things, like there's like a scale within overweight people. It's like if you're at this level of obesity, you can't talk about the challenges of somebody up here because you don't know what it's like. And then the basically the more unhealthy and overweight you get allows you in that hierarchy to speak on those things.
Bryce, how are they defining this? Do they have to submit their BMI before they like talk about stuff?
Oh, it's a real thing, Beth. I will send you some videos on this. It's bananas. They're like, I am at like they have a way. It's almost like with gay dudes they have like the bear and the twink and they have the way of they have this for like these overweight women. Like, well, I'm at this, and they have nicknames for it, and I can't remember what they are. But like, the fatter you are, the more you're able to speak on issues for like overweight people.
Okay,
it's bananas. Anyway. We don't have to go down that road, but I was trying to. So I'm looking at the whole board. I'm like, what's really going on here? And the only thing that I can truly come to terms with is that there's two pieces. One piece is that people are scared of claiming their own amazingness. They don't feel comfortable being like, I'm the shit. I'm good looking. I do what I say. I achieve. Like that is an unheard of energy that most people can't handle. It seems it's really intimidating to other people. And then because of that, those type of people aren't easily controlled. And so they want to kind of keep people in this other sort of way so that it's easier to enact narratives and sell them things that they don't need and have there be, I don't know, like just easier control from a marketing and sales standpoint. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
So what you're telling me is you think that society almost wants to applaud unhealthy behavior because then people actually aren't. They say that they're happy where they're at, but they're not. So it's easier to mass market to them because they're unhappy. I absolutely think that that's part of it. And there's, a whole side of this that's demonizing those are just like, here I am, here's who I am, and I make no apologies for it. Or we should celebrate not losing weight or not looking your best. And if you do, shame on you. That all, again, comes from insecurity.
Right.
It stems from human beings, like we want people to be happy, but there's this element of like, even when someone else is successful or someone else loses weight, there's this element of like, what does this mean for me?
Yeah,
like,
irritate something
what is this
inside of
going to
them,
take
yeah.
away from me? And I think that people get triggered, unconfident people get triggered by other people either losing weight or getting a boob job or getting a nose job. And it's almost like, well, I don't have to do that to look this way. Well, great. So why do you care? Why does it trigger you? It shouldn't trigger you. I mean, I've talked about this before on my podcast. I'm one of 5 sisters, and I also, and by the way, like they're all stunning, and I also am in the beauty industry. I am never the most attractive woman in the room. I am in this room, so I'm the only woman right now.
I take offense to that, Beth.
But I'm just saying, like, as far as like my beauty standards when I'm in a room, I'm never like, do I think I'm attractive? Yeah, of course I do. But do I think I'm the most attractive in every room I'm in? No, I never do. Because I'm always like, wow, she looks so good. And I acknowledge that she's got like a banging bod or like, and if one of them came to me and said, okay, I want to get my breasts done, my instant reaction is not going to be like, oh shit, she's going to look even better than me because now she's going to have amazing tits. That would be a trigger. If that's how you're feeling and other women do that and it triggers you, or other men do that, like I've seen it with Brad, right? So he was kind of eating himself to death while I went through my pregnancies, and then he kind of had this aha moment, and over the last
He's like Shred City
4
now,
years, yeah, and it's been, guess what? Like, you don't get those results overnight. How many people have messaged him being like, what are you doing? Are you on steroids? Can you just like write me a script for whatever you're on? And it's like, this is a 4-year process. Like, you've seen accelerated results because that's just how it works. Like, it's kind of, when you take care of your health, it compounds like money, right? But then there are those people that are just like, oh, well, I wish you were smiling in your pictures. You're not smiling in your pictures anymore, so you must not be happy. Or, well, at what cost did this come at? Like, how much time did you have to spend away from your family and friends? And it's like, interesting that you can't, what is it about him getting in shape that has triggered you to not just applaud him on? So there's that half of it. Same with beauty. Like, if you are a woman and you are super insecure about your nose, or you weren't born with larger lips, and let's face it, no one likes bird lips. You go and get your lips done or a nose job, and then society dogs on you for it, whilst we all acknowledge that beauty is currency. So it's a two-edged sword for me, Bryce, because it's like you're not allowed to invest in your looks, but we were also judging you on the way you look.
I think that we can really like kind of clarify this easily with this. Let's be real. It's not society. It's a very small but loud group of people. Let's be real. Like politics are like this too. When you get into a room with people and you can really talk about their feelings about this type of stuff, nobody actually really thinks this way. And if they do, their opinions fold like a card table when you push on them.
True.
And so it's just there's an echo chamber that benefits them for the moment. And so they get loud and they say the things, but it's not real. When you look at the percentage of actual people that would truly die on that hill, it's very, very small.
I agree. But when we bring it back to demonizing beauty, I don't demonize beauty, but I do have a hard time with specifically women who only lead with beauty.
Oh, for sure.
I have a hard time with that.
For sure.
That's really hard for me.
Well,
that's all they care about. That's all they invest in. And have you ever spoken to, like, there are people that are like very popular on Instagram, bloggers, that like women are just like, oh, always fire emoji, or like, can I just be you, boss?
Really
all
original,
that
by
stuff.
the way, when you just comment with the fire emoji.
Are they literally on fire? Okay.
You know what one is my favorite? When they do like 3 number 1 gold medals. It's like,
how does that work? Triple gold. I love it. Triple gold for the way you look. Bravo.
yeah.
But then, I'll meet them and I'll speak to them, and I'm just like, dumber than a pile of bricks.
Oh, you're an idiot.
That is the most annoying thing to me. That is when I feel like, that's when I'm okay that beauty gets demonized.
It's even worse for me when you find out that those people are just shitty people.
Most of them are, Bryce.
Oh, I know. I have a personal connection to, like, a close friend of mine got into a marriage with a woman, and it's a big debacle right now. And she was a model, and from a distance, you'd think she was just super gorgeous, and then you're in her energy for 5 minutes, and you're like, this bitch is fucking crazy. Like legitimately, like got a little crack up there. And it's so annoying because like I've watched what's happened to my friend, like happening in other places with other types of women, and even this same woman having done this before. And I'm like, how do these women keep getting away with this shit? And like the way that I think that there's a portion of the demonization of beauty that we've been discussing that is like retaliatory, where it's like, that chick ruined my life and she's hot, so
the pendulum swings the opposite direction.
And because everybody's just selfish in their own right when it comes
I agree with you. You think of like models and you think of these bloggers and they make their income based on how they look. It almost becomes obsessive, and they've never been told or shown to invest in anything but that.
Right.
So then they are insufferable to be around, and that is frustrating because you're like, you're the reason why beautiful women get a bad rap, because you're dumber than a pile of bricks, and yet.
Well, you said it. How intimidating is a super hot, smart, funny girl?
Well, the
Holy
thing is,
shit,
it's like, let's just say, and this is where it comes back to like, don't say beauty doesn't matter, because there's two things we keep jumping back and forth, Bryce. But I'm with you, like. You're just a beautiful woman. Bravo. That's great. And it's like artwork, okay? I can look at it, but I can't have a conversation with it. That's exactly
I'm going to stay behind the stanchion.
I'm going to look at you and be like, good for you. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to walk on because I don't want to waste any of my energy or breath chatting with you, because it's going to be a waste of time I'm not ever going to get back. But you then think of, okay, a beautiful woman, even a slightly less beautiful woman, but with brains that actually knows how to use her beauty when it's appropriate and how to not use it when it's appropriate, and she's developed herself more. She hasn't put all of her stock into the way she looks, because guess what? The human body is one that's designed to fail for all of us eventually. And if that's the only stock you've got, well, you're going to be on so many meds when you're 50, 60, 70. Right. And there's always, I don't care if you are the most attractive person that anyone's ever seen where you're at, there is always someone on this planet more attractive than you, more in shape than you, and thinner than you as a woman.
I want to thank you for acknowledging that about me. That's nice of you.
So if that's the only thing that you lay your self-esteem on, you walk into a room where you recognize, oh, holy shit, the woman over there that I've never met before just walked in and she's like a knockout. All of a sudden, they've got nothing left to offer because they put all their weight in beauty, and there's nothing to be more dangerous than a smart, beautiful woman.
Yeah. Well, dude, one of my favorite comedians has a bit about that like he tells this story where he was on the date with this really beautiful woman, she does this move. Oh my God, there's like a tree right there. And he's like, oh, you have been coddled your whole life and you don't have a personality now. Nobody's
what did he
ever.
do? Did he get up and leave?
No, he said, are you serious? That's the dumbest thing you could have ever said. And like it became a thing. You're so mean. And he's like, you have zero personality. Like he just went at her. And of course it's a bit, so it's like he's magnifying the experience. Right. But I was like, bravo, dude. Like we let stupidity reign in the sake of beauty. It's like, no, how about we work on a conversation here where you actually are required to say something interesting instead of, oh my God, there's like a tree right there. Because that's about as childish as it gets. But
it's like, great. I love that you're beautiful. Can you spell the word orange?
Is he like the man bad guy?
So, yeah, I get it. I think that it's like, on one hand, right, let's not pretend that beauty doesn't matter, because it does. It definitely does. It always has, and it always will. Unfortunately, for those of you that feel like it shouldn't, it's not going to change, clearly, because the numbers keep going up. People are investing in the way they look, and they should. But the second part of it is like, is it all that matters? Yeah. No. And those people that do rely on it or do use it to manipulate situations, that's not right either. It's like, that's why I was like, Bryce, this is a longer conversation. It's a double-edged sword, because yes, we shouldn't demonize beauty, but at some point we have to hold those accountable that give it a bad rap.
Yeah, no, I think that you and I have enough difference in our opinion, and we agree on the core things about it that, yeah, like it's important, but it can't be the only thing.
No, but to acknowledge that it's not important is also silly.
That's a lie. It's not even silly. It's a lie. Because everything about the choices that we make. Are you familiar with the concept of divine geometry?
No, but I'd love to learn about it.
So in the beauty conversation, there are specific ratios and angles of the way a neck falls, and the nape, and cheekbones, and hips, and shoulders. The width of the shoulders compared to the narrowness of the hips, and how the waist. There is a range that is beautiful as far as like our human instinct to respond to it as beauty. So what makes an attractive woman attractive is actually mathematical. There's a certain range of like when, the way that her face is, and like in the how her neck, and there's a range, of course. So it's like you can have wider shoulders, but if you're going to have wider shoulders, you have to have wider hips, and there has to be, and then breast size and hips and feet size and all. And we physiologically respond to this. Like we physiologically we calculate so much just by initial first impressions. Like the second we meet somebody for the first time, it's like we know if we think they're attractive or not immediately. We energetically, we vibe or we don't. And so part of that is like these massive amounts of calculations that our brain is doing, like, no, that's beautiful. Or it's kind of pretty, or it's not at all. And there's all these factors in there, that do that, but it really ends up being mathematical. And divine geometry is a part of that. When you look at, for example, like why, like if you're in the business, if you go to a doctor and you say, I want to have, breast augmentation, he's going to look at your entire frame. And be like, these are going to be too small. Yep. These are going to be too big. Well, what is it that he's using to decide if that's the case? It's mathematical. He's like, the geometry of your body changes. It's too much or too little or whatever to have this look good.
The CC comment, like how many CCs you have in for your breast dog, is an irrelevant conversation.
Yeah, it has to do with everything
Some body
else.
Cavities can swallow up 800 CCs, and others
that's the most funny way I've heard that described. I ain't swallowing nothing, all right?
Okay, some bodies, like 200 cc's looks like porn star boobs.
Right.
That means nothing to me. People are like, well, how many cc's do you have? I'm like, it's irrelevant. There's a formula to it.
It's a geometry,
It
the
depends
divine
on
geometry.
so many factors. But having said that, though, Bryce, all of that is true. But then there's also personal preference, right? Like
Clearly.
I'm naturally a blonde. I dye my hair every 2 weeks and dye my eyebrows every 2 weeks because my husband is more attracted to brunettes than he is to blondes. It was a bet I lost 15 years ago, and I've just never gone back.
You lost a bet?
Bowling. Lost a bet bowling with him. And so that was...
I got to hear this story. Like, how did that...
We were dating, and he would always say, and all of his sisters are blonde, so maybe he's just got a thing for brunettes. It is what it is. But we were dating, he'd be like, I just feel like you look really good as a brunette. And I'd be like, I don't care what you think, and I'm not going to be a brunette. I'm a blonde. And we went bowling one day, and we're both very competitive people. And he's like, let's make a bet on who's going to win this game. And I was like, okay, what? And he was like, if I win, you dye your hair brown just to see how it looks. And I was like, okay. And if I win, you're never allowed to bring this up ever again, as long as I know you. Well, sneaky Brad, I didn't know this, but he had taken bowling class in college for 3 years. So
he's an athlete.
Got creamed. Well, no, he also had a very easy college schedule, I guess. So I got absolutely creamed. And
it's like, I'm gonna ace this bowling class, dude.
Yeah, he just wanted to fill a credit or something, and it was a blast. So then he went back every year.
And little did he know it was going to change the trajectory of his marriage.
Little did he know that he would have a brunette wife over it. So but again, that's just preference. There are lots of people out there that really like blondes. There are women out there that like a certain height on a male. There's some women like shoulders, some women like calves. I mean, it's the same thing. Like we all have our beauty's in the eye of the beholder, which is why we all look slightly different. But we also can collectively agree when someone is or is not attractive.
Sure. Well, that's both of those things are accurate. There is a geometry of beauty, and there's a certain ratio that is more appealing or less appealing.
Right.
But it also has to go under the filter of personal preference as well. So it's like some, stereotypically you hear about like black guys liking big asses on girls, right? Well, it's like I don't personally find a big ass attractive, but some other guy does. But I could understand how the geometry of that could be appealing to somebody, even though it's not a preference that I have. So I don't have an issue with that. But you're right. There's like it's both factual, if you will, while at the same time contextual.
Yes, which I would say that's probably the case for universal, right? Even with personality types, like no one is like, yeah, you know what my type is? A complete asshole. that's my type. That's not the case. But for some, like there's a universal, like this person's
my
good.
first marriage would make you think that was my type as well.
There's like good people and bad people, and then there's preferences on what you want when you're universally like, yeah, I want to marry a good person.
Right.
And then what you personally need from that is different from,
Right.
whoever down the street. So that's why it's so hard when people want to come at the beauty industry and just be like, this is so unhealthy for us. Okay, seriously? So you're saying that it's unhealthy and mentally unhealthy for us to put weight in beauty? Okay, if you don't stay in your pajamas all day and don't wash your face or shower and you look like a slob kebab, do you feel good?
A slob kebab? I
Yeah,
like that.
a slob kebab. Do you feel good about yourself?
No.
Like, are you, the way you talk about yourself, the way you talk to others? No. You go have a hard day, you go take a shower and like you wash your hair, you put makeup on, you get dressed. Don't tell me you don't feel better. You feel better about yourself. Right. So we're going to demonize an industry that's actually trying to push people to feel their best.
There is a group think in this, and we've talked about this. Like I know, like I have a 13-year-old daughter, and the pandemic was kind of rough on her, and it's been a really beautiful thing because like in the past 2 months, because our family's very healthy. My wife, teaches Pilates for her career. I should rephrase how she owns a Pilates studio, and she happens to be an instructor as well. And health and fitness are very important to both of us. We do our best to keep ourselves in shape. And my oldest son is the same way. Like we have a healthy, and my daughter had gained some weight, and she's like, I don't like this anymore. Like I need to change this. And it was because of the example of it. But her best friend is like extremely unhealthy. And I've been noticing as my daughter gets back in shape more, it's creating like a disconnect there. It's a very weird sort of thing.
Bucket.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the beautiful thing is that my daughter could care less. She's like, whatever. I don't want to live that way anymore. And so there's like you get in that group think, it gets even more difficult to get out of it and to start prioritizing that. And I think that's where.
Well, misery loves company, right? That is the case. But here's another caveat though with like you, like with your daughter's standpoint. Let's say she was like, you know what? I really want to go put extensions in my hair because I don't like my hair. I don't feel good about myself. I'm going to put extensions in. Is there anything wrong with that, even though sometimes the world likes to demonize it? No, there's nothing wrong with it. When there is something wrong with it is when you pretend you didn't. Right? So that's like the caveat. And I think that's where a lot of people are like, oh, it's causing so many mental people getting depressed and mental disorders based on like the world comparing themselves to these standards that aren't real, and we shouldn't be worshiping these beauty icons. It's like, well, we shouldn't demonize beauty, but we should demonize liars. Right. And so I'll use the Kardashians for an example. I don't know why they think that we all have amnesia and we don't remember what they looked like before they invested millions in the way that they look, but we do, and there's actually photographic evidence of it. So to say that like you just get lasers here and there and don't get that much Botox, you've not had anything done. Kim, you're 41 years old and your face doesn't move. Okay, I can actually see the filler when she talks right here. Being from the industry, I can see it. I know I can see what surgery she's had to sculpt her body, and that's okay. She does look great. She looks great for her age, and I think that everyone would clap her along a lot more. She's obviously feeling herself right now, and I'm here for it, but people would clap you along if you were honest about what you did. Because when you acting like, no, I just turned 40 and look like this, it's the lying. So you got that woman that goes and gets full body lipo and then is like, oh yeah, I just, was like working out and lost weight.
I tried the keto diet. It was great.
And you're just like, really? So like they sculpted your abdomen that way, did they? And like you got a thigh gap one day when you never had that leg shape before. It's like what happens is either one, those of us that are smart enough to figure it out just think that you're a liar. And two, there are women out there that will diet and work out and never be able to achieve that same look and now be depressed because they're holding themselves to a standard that's unachievable without the help that you got.
Do you know who's worst in that?
You tell me.
Men.
They're not honest when they get stuff done?
Nope.
Why? I feel like they
because,
be no
dude,
shame.
I don't know what it is, but there is a way worse stigma for dudes to get plastic surgery or fillers or Botox or any of that stuff. It's kind of crazy, but at a certain level, everybody does, which is the irony. Like I had a nose job when this was in 2009. I'd had a deviated septum, and so my nose was shaped like a J, and the one side I couldn't breathe in. I didn't have a problem with my nose. I thought I was attractive, but it was crooked, and I couldn't breathe for shit. Like if you were to tape my mouth shut, I would pass out. Like I had that little amount of breath that could go through. And when I got my nose job, I was scared to tell people. It was a weird thing. And then I reached this point because when I first started being able to breathe, I'm like, fuck all these idiots. Yeah, you can't breathe, dummy. Go get a nose job. Get that thing fixed. And I just became this sort of missionary about the idea that deviated symptoms are everywhere. Go get it fixed. And then, I had hair plugs at one time too. Like if you look at the back of my head, I have a scar. And if you know how they do hair plugs, like they strip out a little thing and then they replant your follicles. And it ended up being a joke that's in my act now because it's like they don't tell you that your old hair keeps falling out. So if I was to let my hair grow, I have a tiara now. Like just this thing that's this wall of hair at the front. And I had to have that conversation with myself too, where I'm like, it looked decent, and then I kept balding, and I'm like, well, fuck, I'm gonna have to either go get another surgery, which is exactly what they want. They don't tell you that, or I'm just gonna bick it. And I'm like, I'm leaning in. I got a decent scalp. I can do this. I've done Botox between my eyes, like, and it's not something that if somebody was to ask me directly, it's like, oh yeah, I've done that, but it's never a part of the conversation with dudes. It's a weird thing.
It's so interesting, Bryce, because you look at like the growth even last year, the amount of men that are now in our industry, which is like medical aesthetics. That's what I do. I consult for medical practices that are doing cash pay cosmetics procedures. 400% growth for men. I mean, men are in there. They're growing. Sure. It's just maybe there is some stigma there for sure. It's almost like the way I think it's a lot they don't know themselves.
As well. Like my wife, I got my first facial months ago. I went up to Spa Trouvé, which I guess is one of your clients as well. And I was like, what am I doing here? Like, this is weird. Like, I thought it was weird. Yeah. And Amy was just like...
you loved it?
I loved it.
Yeah. Nothing beats having your face rubbed, I'll tell you that.
Oh, dude, like they had this little sucky suck thing, and I don't remember what the type of facial was called. And I walked out of there, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I look younger.
Oh, yeah.
And as somebody that's on camera a lot, not that I'm some fucking movie star or anything, but it was like, oh, this is better for me.
Yeah. It matters. It makes a difference. And that's just part of taking care of yourself, Bryce. It's not, oh my goodness, how vain is he that he's going and getting facials? It's
I'm
like,
pretty
no,
vain.
No, but I'm just saying that you can say that about yourself, but other people from the outside will be like, oh my gosh, you went and got, a diamond glow at Spa Trouvé. Like, how vain is he? But it's like, no, he's just taking care of his skin. Like, if we don't take care of ourselves, the human body breaks down regardless. So if you can prevent that breakage for as long as possible, that's the difference between people when you see them in their 50s and you're just like, you've taken care of yourself and you haven't, and just because you didn't, you don't win a crown because you naturally haggard.
What about a tiara?
You might win one of your tiaras, but like you don't get a crown because you naturally haggard, whereas your neighbor got Botox and took care of herself, and then because you are frustrated with it, then you have to demonize it on them.
So I have a question, and I'm wondering, you might not know this, but you might as well. I'm wondering, in that 400% growth that you're referring to for the men aspect of it, what the age demographic is for guys that are getting. I'm wondering. I'm going to guess they're guys in my age, like between because I'm 47, so it's going to be guys probably between 38 and 55, maybe.
It's 35 plus. Okay, right. It's not younger guys. No, it's not. We see a lot of gay men that are younger come in, but it's 35 years on. And I think it's because their wives are starting to take care of themselves earlier. So there's definitely this like disconnect.
I would be curious if a lot of these guys are introduced to it through their wives.
Oh, they always are. They always are.
That was what happened to me.
To be like, oh, and Brad's like, how come you don't have wrinkles on your forehead and I have permanent wrinkles on mine? And it's like, well, because I've been getting Botox since I was 23, dude. I'm 34 now. He's 36. And so it's like, yeah, you got to go take care of yourself. And there's a huge difference when you do. And we should applaud people for taking care of themselves. And here's the other thing too, right? So if let's say you do go get something done and someone makes fun of you for it, if you did it for the right reasons, you're not going to care.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like I haven't had filler. I mean, I've had filler in and out of my face for years. I haven't had filler in my face for like 3 years, except for about 2 months ago, I had some filler put back in my lips. Not a lot, but like enough that I was like, oh, I just want, again, been in the industry. I was like, I need it exactly here. I want it exactly here. This is exactly how I want it to look. And it wasn't even that much that was put in. But I was recording a podcast and someone on my Instagram comments wrote, dude, did her lips get stung by a bee? And I didn't even see it. So Brad was like, Beth, did you see this comment? I was dying of laughter. And it was a guy. It looked like it was he didn't have any posts on his like thing. And I was
troll,
just, yeah, like whatever. But I was laughing and I was like, that's actually a very funny comment. And I did look like that for a good 3 weeks as they were like, swollen before they went down. But like, I thought it was funny. But what if I had been a woman that had been insecure about like my lips for years and finally got the courage to go get them done, and then some asshole makes a comment about them? Like, again, you're demonizing her for wanting to be more attractive. Like, and also, mom, I don't care when you're just like, well, I don't like it when you do it. I don't think it looks good. Guess what? It's not your fucking face. It's mine.
Hey, Mom.
I like the way it looks. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done
it.
it. I wouldn't have done it. So, like, the unsolicited comments when, like, a woman goes and I have seen this more times. It makes me sick when a woman goes and gets her breast done or surgery and she feels so confident. She loves the way she looks. And then there's always that turd that will be like, oh, I liked it better before. I don't like the way you look now. And it's like, guess what? She didn't ask you. She didn't ask you, and she looks better now. She feels like she looks better now. That's the only opinion we care about, is how the person physically feels about it. Everyone else can kick rocks because it's none of their business. But guess what? If you were beautiful and smart, you'd know that, so you wouldn't be affected by it. So maybe just like invest in your brain a little bit.
So are you saying that if you get bothered by somebody making a comment about that, you're not smart?
I'm saying if you get bothered by someone making a comment about the way you look, you need to get some self-confidence. And I think often.
Oh, the irony, because you just did the thing to get some self-confidence, and then they said the thing, and now you're feeling bad about it.
So you should just be like,
so you get more surgery then?
No. If that was the thing that you're like, I need more self-confidence, you go do it. They make a comment about it, and now you're back to like not having self-confidence. Then you need to work on yourself. That's what I'm saying. Invest in your brain, like invest in yourself. If your self-worth is tied so much to other people's opinions of you, it should be your opinion of you, not theirs.
I agree with you on that. Like, I mean, external validation at a point is important, but it's a very small point.
Yeah, like I don't want most people to hate me, but at the same time, like I have to care more about what I think about myself than what you think of me, right?
I had to come to Jesus with that idea a while ago because I was in this vein of like self-development and growth and reading and coaching and all this stuff where I was trying to really get my shit together. It's still a constant process.
Of course.
I got a lot of work I'm great, but I've got a lot of work still to do, which is, I think, the point. And I remember as a comedian, I had to like come to terms with the fact that I needed external validation. Like if I was to go do a show and nobody laughs, I don't get to sit there and go, I'm a great comedian.
Yeah.
I'm fucking awesome, dude. I killed this room. See, they didn't even laugh once. Like, no. I need that. That's the metric of how it works. And I started looking at other aspects of life too, where it's okay to need that for isolated portions of life. But it cannot be the only thing. Like I have to have confidence. It can't be
tied to self-worth.
Right.
It can be tied to like whether or not you're going to,
Right. If I don't score
well
touchdowns as a, quarterback or whatever, like anyway.
Yeah, if I present for 6 hours and everyone's like falling asleep or they get up and leave and I'm not engaging the crowd, I can't sit there and say like, oh my gosh, I'm really good at
you could.
this. I mean, I could think it, but I'm not. It's not a fact. But how that is shouldn't affect how I view myself as a whole, right? And I think that's the difference that's really all it comes down to is that you can't, the way you look matters, the way the beauty industry wouldn't be growing if it wasn't that way. And I meet you, I'm judging you on the way you look before you've even opened your mouth. That's never going to change.
Right.
But it just can't be everything. It can't be what you tie your value to either.
Right. So let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
How's Eleve 365 going?
It's good. It's fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
It seemed like it's growing. Like
it's
getting
growing.
more popular.
It's growing.
You're bringing Brad on, which is cool. He's
He comes on when I have a topic that I need like a soundboard against sometimes. Right. Yeah.
I was as somebody that's intricately involved in the production of that. I just have one question for you. Why do you hate vanity plates so much?
I just think they're so douchey. And I feel like I have one, and that's so annoying. And it's not a vanity plate, but I just don't know why.
Okay. Because I have...
Personally.
Of my 4 cars, I have 3 vanity plates.
What do they say? It just depends what they say, Bryce. What do they say?
So on my Ferrari, it says throaty.
Okay.
Because have you ever heard what it sounds like? It's a throaty sound. Okay.
Okay.
On my M6, it says stand up, because it's a comedian.
Okay.
And then on my Range Rover, it says jokes.
Those are all like not douchey things, though, aren't they? They're like funny things.
Yeah.
But you and I both know that 90% of vanity plates are douchey.
Yeah.
If it's Amy, funny and you're making fun of something, like that's funny. Different.
On the Ferrari, it's funny when Amy drives it.
I thought it meant something else.
When she drives it, she thinks that like she's out there saying she's got throat game.
Yep, that's what I thought too.
Yeah.
That's what I would assume if I saw that car.
Well, if a dude's driving it,
I'd still think it, Bryce, because that's why my brain went.
That's the funny part.
That's why my brain went with it, because I'm just a gross person,
guess
I guess.
what, Beth? You'd remember it.
Well, yes. I don't actually, but that's the other thing. I don't want people to remember my cars. I live in like chronic fear of like, pedophiles and
You're
creepers.
too old for pedophiles, Beth.
I have kids.
Oh, you have kids. Okay.
I have kids. But so I'm always like, please don't remember my car. Please don't know to be able to pick me out in like a... But I get it. Listen, it's a personal preference. That's why we vent about it.
To your credit, so this plate that I have right here, it says comic.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I had on my Ferrari before I changed it. And I saw it, and I felt douchey.
There you
I'm
go.
like, that is so fucking pretentious, dude. Like, what are you doing? And I changed it within like 3 weeks. I'm
there
like,
you
I
go.
can't.
So there you go. See, it's just...
But now it's a nice backdrop for me.
They can be douchey.
Right.
I will take a vanity plate any day, though, over an untinted Toyota Corolla in the fast lane going 65 miles an hour. 10 out of 10. I'd rather see a vanity plate.
That's a great...
They're always untinted cars.
Do they go 65? I didn't know they could go that fast, because that's...
Like, they're shaking.
Yeah, like...
They're shaking, but it's always an untinted Toyota. Always. Sometimes, actually, recently, an untinted Prius.
I swear that the highways in Utah County are dyslexic, because the fast lane is where everybody camps out, and if you want to go fast, you just go to the other lane.
That is the secret.
Yeah. 90.
So anyway,
little. This is for my Utah friends here. If you're at the 9,000 South in I-15 exit, and you're going south, not going to the 215 route, but you're going like that far right lane, nobody's in it, ever.
That's awesome.
Ever. I've had my car up to 160 miles an hour in that lane during traffic. That's how there's nobody ever in those 2 lanes, like both of those lanes.
Interesting.
So, little hack, people. You don't want to deal with the traffic. Stay on the right lane. Anyway.
They stay on the right side. So, yeah, other than that, it's going, other than,
I learned what chinwag means because of you. I didn't know what chinwag was.
Yeah, just a friendly chat. You're wagging your chins.
I want to know how that came to be. Like, one person was like, this guy's really wagging it.
Well, it's an English saying, but my mom used to say it. Like, if I, back when we didn't have cell phones growing up, right? So I'd have to call my friend from her house. Right. My mom would always be like, get off the phone. It's time for dinner. I'd come down. She's like, you guys just chin wagging up there. And it's just like it's actually more for like old women that would have nothing to do with wasting their time. And they would just sit there and like wag their chins. Like, it's just now become like a term of a chin wag. Like, let's sit down and have a little chin wag,
Dude, my main producer that usually ends up doing your episodes, he fucking loves you guys.
Well, that's good.
When Brad came on for the first time, he was like, oh, I can't wait for this one. She was talking last week how Brad's coming on. Oh, boy, like he's all stoked about it.
And I had to delay Brad being on this recent one a week because I was gone in Austin. So, Brad has become a bit of a fan favorite, and I think it's just because we just rip each other a new one the entire time, back and forth.
Well, it's fun. It's playful. And
that's just what we tease each other.
Flirty and everything,
Sure. We just like to tease. That's just what we do. So,
I love it.
Yeah, but it's good. It's been good.
When you first started that show, you had this desire to kind of move it in to be in like the women's space and to be supportive of women and stuff. How's all that going?
That's still like my end goal when I look at, okay, what do I really want out of this? I'm very irreverent by nature and quite blunt. So I think that there's an element of wow factor. I know my mom won't listen to it anymore because she says I use the word tit too much and she doesn't like my language, but it's milder on my podcast than it is in real life. So I don't know why she's upset at that. But the end goal really is to just help women get to a place where they feel more confident, they feel more fulfilled. There's so, I feel like I'm generalizing.
Sure.
But a lot of the women I know, particularly at my age, right, some are working and feel like they sacrifice personal things in their life because of their career. And then on the other hand, there are a lot of women who invested in family life, having kids and supporting their husband's career. And I think that's probably what they thought that they wanted when they were little. And now they're in their early 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, 40s, and they feel unfulfilled in life, albeit bored is how I would describe it. There's more to life than like how your kids are doing, how your husband's providing. And I think sometimes what I've seen, particularly in the culture in Utah, maybe this is across the globe, there's a lot of unhappy people. And I just want to be able to, in a lighthearted way, empower women to live the life that they actually want or even know what they want. But really just invest in themselves. Please invest in your brains. Like there's so many women out there with so many talents that they are too scared to invest in. So that's why it's just like the demonizing of the beauty industry. There's a lot of them that view that their worth is the income that their husband makes, how their children are performing at school or in life, and then what they personally look like. And that's it.
Kind of sad,
and
actually.
it's sad, but that's the reality. That's a lot of people's reality, Bryce. And they tie their worth to how their children are performing, how they personally look, and then how their husband is performing in ways that we rate men on success. And for a woman to only put her value in the way she looks and her children, when you and I both know that's not all the value.
Yeah.
So yes, it's important. I'm never going to say it's not. I make a living off it, and I will never not think that beauty has currency, but there's so much more out there. And I think that we would deal with a lot happier people day to day if everyone just started realizing that they can control their happiness, but they don't want to. They want the government to help them be happy, or they want, their friends or social
That's one of the
media.
biggest tragedies of just our day and age is the outsourcing of our own self-worth and our own happiness.
Or even our life, Bryce. There are so many people out there. You and I know this. So, like, we were both raised in very religious homes.
Yeah.
We're basically told from a very young age, this is how if you follow this very strict guideline of like you get married young, you have kids as early as you can, then your kids have kids, and then you just like enjoy to the end. That is what life is going to be for you.
Yeah.
And
it'll be fulfilling and happy. It's going to be amazing.
In some cases, and I will tell you, I have to say, like, my husband and my kids bring a lot of happiness into my life, but sometimes they also bring a lot of misery. Like, sometimes I want to punch all four of them in the face.
Right.
So then what if you want more? And then you're like, well, I shouldn't want more. This should be it. It starts to create this internal turmoil with a lot of people, and there's a lot of unhappy people. I mean, Utah is like the highest Xanax prescribed state per capita of all of the states.
Well, it's several of the like opiates are strong here, and
opioids.
Dude, now
Xanax.
there's like weed is taking a portion of all that now that it's legally
thank
available.
Goodness.
True, like it's not nearly as dangerous as those other things, but it still is. As much big fan here, I could run a fan club and we'd have a great time with that. But at the same time, I understand it's not benign.
But
it has its drawbacks.
When you become dependent on anything to fix the way that you feel about life or yourself,
sedation,
it's hard, right? So that's really, I mean, we got a little serious there, but that's really the why behind Eleve is obviously I want to entertain you while I do it, but I want to kind of give you hope that, listen, I get it. I've been there when I was just like, I want more, and I feel guilty that I feel guilty that just being a wife and a mother is not enough for me, and it isn't. I love it, and it's the most precious thing to me.
You still feel guilty about that? Or have you been able to overcome
I don't feel
that?
guilty because I love my life. But that was the reality. And I'd be like, I love my children now. I do feel guilty. Sometimes when I'm gone, I really miss them. I just want to be home. Sometimes I'm gone and I have like the time of my life. And then I'm like, I feel guilty that I'm having fun and I'm not with my kids. That probably will never go away because I'm just like a mom. But for me, I want women to see that, not like you can have it all, but you can pivot at any time. Like you can decide tomorrow to go invest in yourself and develop something and go, you want to be an entrepreneur? Go be an entrepreneur. You want to go learn Italian? Go learn Italian. You want to go to culinary school now at 40 years old, but you feel like you're selfish investing in yourself now? Why? Go do it. It doesn't have to mean that you have to go have a career and make a bunch of money, but there has to be more to your identity than the way you look and your family life and your religion. And I think that we have put women in a box that women don't belong in. And when they're not in that box, oftentimes we make assumptions that like, oh, she has a thriving career. Her kids must like be really missing her at home. I just got off, like this summer was a little bit too much travel for me personally, if I'm honest. Like it was out of my comfort zone and I'll never let it happen again. But my kids went and slept at my in-laws for a couple of days when both Brad and I were traveling. And I was super grateful that it's always easier when they're with family while I'm gone. But then afterwards, they sent me a nice long text about what each of them did. And, I was like, oh, that's nice. And then at the end, I can tell they've really been missing you. It's been a long summer of you traveling, and your absence has been felt in their lives. And I'm like, oh, really? Did my 8, 6, and almost 4-year-old tell you that? Did they sit down and say,
seems like
shit, Grandma, I love swimming at your pool and making cookies and having sleepovers, but I sure miss my mom? Like, no, they didn't.
It's like those tweets you see that my 3-year-old said, why is President Biden... Like, they're making these ridiculous claims that isn't coming out of it.
But even if you think that, why don't you just respond and say, we loved spending time with them and we'd love to help whenever you need us.
Right.
It's just like that. There's a difference with how has travel been versus you've been gone so much. Like, right. And I think it's just because society's like, well, she's a mom and her husband has a successful career. Why is she working this hard? Why does she need a career too? Why can't she just be home and enjoy her life?
Well, that's an entirely different conversation on why it's the woman that gets asked that question and not the man.
Right.
Because if we're really moving towards this equality thing, like,
I mean that's like another 3 hours, Bryce.
For sure, because we won't. Ooh. We'll save that for a part 2 later.
That's like a whole other thing.
Dude, in the part 2, we'll talk about pimple popping addictions.
Oh my gosh,
and we'll talk about
you have trouble falling asleep on a night, pull up pimple poppers.
Dude,
sleep like a baby.
I almost sent you another one today because I saw this one. This like dude, this chick was like it was like the size of a softball that came out of her forearm.
That's disgusting.
I know. I would love it. Right up your alley, dude.
But if we bring it back to like what this theme is, if we were to wrap it up, I do think...
Oh, we're not wrapping up yet. We got current events we're going to do. We're going to talk some shit.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay, so let's just wrap up the beauty part real fast. 1, I think there's a higher standard of expecting women to be more beautiful than men. I think chronically you see a more attractive woman that if you think of couples that either they're on the same playing field or the wife is more attractive.
Oh, dude, there's a whole metric of this. Have you heard about this?
When you see a really handsome husband and a less attractive woman, it blows your mind every time because it's so rare that the man is more attractive.
There's been studies about this.
Yeah, well,
I believe it. Men will date and marry women that are their same attractive level or higher, and like they can go, dude. Women will marry a fucking troll if he's got certain other aspects of that. And it's not a weird thing. Like, you'll see a super hot chick with some guy that, like, looks like Danny DeVito, and you're like, I get it. But the inverse rarely happens.
Rarely.
And it's like...
And when it does, it shocks you.
It shocks you when you're like, that guy is really, really good looking. And it's like, what?
You double take and you're just like, she must have like, a gold vagina. Like, what's going on?
Or he's not out of the closet yet, or one of those things. It's like,
something's going on here where you just say, what is actually happening?
Yeah.
So
like, statistically speaking, it's like 4% of.
Oh, I believe
it's so small.
Because it always stumps you when you see it. You're always like, whoa. But because of that, there's the reality of there's a lot more pressure on women to be beautiful than men, right? I mean, that just goes because a man's again, on like the scale and the box that we tie everyone as a woman, it's the way she looks and maybe her age. Yeah. And then the man is power and success. And then it's a bonus if they're attractive. Right.
Well, that's one of the things.
It's even a double bonus if they're tall. But like, as long as they're powerful and successful, check, check. And as long as the woman's beautiful, check. When really, imagine if you had a beautiful woman that was powerful and successful and an attractive man that was powerful and successful. I mean, dynamite.
Then you'd have the Prescotts.
Then you, well, dumb, looking at them right now. Yeah. But that's my point, is that we sometimes as men only worry about our success and our power, and that's when their bodies go to shit and, their sense of humors. And then for women, it's like the way you look is the only thing we care about. And so then because of that, they don't develop their personality, they don't develop their brain, they don't develop their intelligence at all. And then you're just like, well, this guy got there together because she's beautiful and he's rich, but she's an idiot and he doesn't care.
Right. Well, our mutual friend, John Madsen, his episode, it hasn't released yet at the time of recording, but it will have been released the week before this one does.
Yeah.
That's his whole thing with the superhuman deal is it's like, dude, it's so easy to win, guys. Like, you don't get to sacrifice your bodies anymore. Get Shred City.
Yeah.
You can do it. What are you doing? And I've seen in my own life when I've taken that, and I've watched John, I've watched other, like Brad's another one of these guys. Like, when you take care of that and you are daunting in your physicalness, when you're handsome and you take care of your body, the dad bod shit isn't there, it gives you power. Your status is elevated, dude.
Brad's acceleration in physical growth and mental growth have been on the same plane, right? So like people are just seeing him now and thinking, wow, he's really in shape. But what they aren't seeing is the growth behind the scenes and what he's been able to do, like career-wise, and then in his personal life, and his growth. You're only able to see the exterior side of it, but it goes hand in hand. Like when you figure out a way to take care of your body, it accelerates your mind, and then your mind has an ability to do that. So I guess my point is we shouldn't be demonizing anyone who's investing in themselves ever.
Well, attractiveness and physical prowess is a lubricant for society. Like things are smoother for you. They're easier.
Yeah. I was joking with Brad. We'll end on this and we'll get to like
we're gonna talk some shit. It's gonna be fun.
We'll do a chin wag, but
a chin wag.
I was like, you could have a man. And this is when you was like the power of a woman, and this is what I want every woman out there that thinks that she's attractive. First off, I agree with you. If you think you are, then I think you are. Yeah. I would challenge you: go invest in some intelligence, because you can have a slam dunk hot man up in front of a room of people with all the intelligence in the world, and then you put next to him a slam dunk looking woman with all the intelligence of the world. So on a par, you're both on a par. Everyone's looking at the woman.
Of course.
10 out of 10 times. Both equal playing fields, got the same background, everything. If the woman is attractive, she will get more attention than the man. And that's the power. That is the power right there.
Pornography was built on that power. Dude, the dude is a stand-in for whatever. It's the chick you're watching.
Right. So that's the power. Too. And I wish that a lot more women that have invested or care so much about the way they look, I wish they would realize that they've only got 20% of the power. And if they just went and invested in the other 80%, they're unstoppable.
Right. It's true.
So that's it. That's all I got on that.
In the name of, just kidding. What's up, dude? We got a new producer this week.
Woo-hoo!
How you doing? He's a con man. All right, so what's our current events, buddy?
I'm sure you heard of President Biden announces the student loan relief thing.
We did.
And so this is his perspective. President Biden believes that a post-high school education should be a ticket to a middle-class life, but for too many, the cost of borrowing for college is a lifelong burden that deprives them of that opportunity.
Okay.
So what's your take on relieving these students?
Okay, so I'm gonna stay away from the political conversation of the morality of paying off somebody else's stuff, and I'm going to go with what was the first part of what he said, which is that President Biden said that college should be a ticket to the middle class.
I hate that. Do you realize that sentence? That's the only thing I'm going to touch today.
It's bullshit. Yep.
I can't vote. I'm not a citizen, so I don't feel like I have a right.
What does that have to do with it? There's a lot of people voting that aren't citizens.
No, that are alive. Right. So I I don't want to touch the politics side of this, but you're putting out there the expectation to put out into the world that a college education dedicating 4 more years to knowledge and some expertise equals a middle-class life is asinine.
It's the most daft statement ever.
I think that you could, first off, I think you can be successful without a college education.
Of course.
I have a college education and I'm grateful for it, but my success came from real life experience. The college education was essentially my safety net to get into the companies that I wanted to work for. But that is not your ticket. Your ticket to a middle-class life is what you do with yourself. Like, to say that anything, even a high school education presents a middle-class life or any kind of life. Nothing is guaranteed. So what happens next? Like, what if they go get a college education and they still live a low-class life?
This is the whole thing of like, regardless of party, government isn't your friend. Okay.
No.
So to act like they're the big brother that's going to help you and that it should be this case. I read an interesting stat that in this whole discussion of, the morality of paying off, it's going to cost like $300 billion to be able to do this student loan relief thing. It's a vote grab. They're trying to buy votes from people that were going to vote for them anyway. But here's an interesting thing. Part of one of the things that they were saying as a justification for this move was that, 15, 20 years ago, the Pell Grant, which was a grant that the government would provide to help pay for education based off of income level, used to be able to pay for up to 80% of your education's cost. Now, because of the rising cost of tuition and other things associated with higher education, it's only at 30%. When I hear this shit about, there's 2 things that I wish would have been different. You didn't need to pay off all this stuff. Go change the law that makes it so you can't bankrupt out of student loans. Watch how they will change who they give those loans to. Those loans are as protected as they come. If you as a borrower get a student loan, you're on the fucking hook for that thing. It's just like child support. You cannot get rid of it.
Yeah.
You have to pay it off. That's a protection from the banks. And that's why those banks hand it out to 18-year-olds like it's candy.
Yeah.
Okay? So there's that problem. On top of that, the entire university system in the United States is corrupt as fuck, dude. Did you know that Harvard is sitting on a $56 billion tax-free endowment? That's how much cash they have on hand. And they're like, why are these schools able to keep raising prices on their tuition?
Well,
I know why. Because people can get money that goes to the school. I guarantee tuitions are going to go up next year after this because they're going to get this influx of cash. That's going to be a different beast. And it's like they didn't fix anything about the system being fucked up. They just made it to where the banks got paid off quicker than having to be dripped their money with these shitty student loan payments.
I agree with you. And I think the problem here is twofold. One, we're in true American, I have to say in true American fashion, we're treating the symptoms and not the disease.
Of course, yep.
This is the disease is college extorting students. There needs to be some kind of rule and regulation on how high tuition can go, and then there needs to be a cap on it, and that's it. And that's just what it is. If it truly equals a middle class life. The other thing is that I think that there needs to be some regulation on just loans in general and creating debt.
Dude, I guarantee if you were to take away that provision that says you can't bankrupt out of student loans, the entire game would change.
Yeah, so there's those 2 things that we're also teaching entitlement. You're not entitled to a college education. I don't know where people thought that came in. People have sacrificed for years to get a college education. You're not entitled to it. If you want one, okay. If loans don't work, guess what? I worked all through college to pay for my college. I don't understand why. And by the way, I was an out-of-state student, so I had to pay like
a lot more.
Probably what they're paying now, but back then it was a huge sacrifice. You are not entitled to it. So if you want one, I'm all for it. But also, you don't need it to be successful either.
Did you know this?
The other caveat was just like, it's a nice to have. It's not a need to have anymore. And they're not teaching you anything in college also that you can't go out there and learn on your own. probably faster because you're learning from people who obviously couldn't do it. That's why they're teaching it. I'm sorry, that's
No,
rude,
that's true.
but it's actually how
Those
I feel
who can't
about
do
it.
teach. Yeah.
So that's the issue for me is one, you're treating the disease. I mean, so you're treating the symptoms and not the disease. And two, you're just flooding this generation that, in my opinion, is already, I hate to say it, guys, quite entitled. And you're just creating more entitlement there. Let's have people get more for working less in a time where our dollar means not as much, and we can't employ people. There's chronically, like you go stay in a hotel, like room service doesn't show up for 2 hours because like people
Customer
aren't
service
staying.
is dead. Yeah.
So why are we creating even more entitlement here? I feel like that's the opposite of the American dream is happening, and this is not the American dream.
There's two things that I think that, I mean, we can wrap up this current event. First of all, some major companies, Google, Apple, some other tech companies, other major like healthcare companies,
Yeah.
they have removed the requirement from their hiring process to have it be that you have a college education.
Good for them.
So that shows you then that they understand that they're dealing with a different type of workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, there are a lot of people that like kind of it's a low key thing. They don't want to hire certain college graduates from certain schools because they know that those people are going to be a pain in the fucking ass.
Of course.
Because there's just microaggressions, and we need to make sure we've got all our pronouns properly. And do we have an inclusion in like they're in that world? And they're like, we're just trying to sell fucking pillowcases, dude. Like,
Yeah.
no, let's not worry about that.
There are some careers, right, where you do need to, like obviously a doctor, a lawyer.
Oh, sure.
There
Engineer.
Are some, and
Yeah.
so school and education. I mean, I got mine in business development. I will tell you probably what I use in my life now to be successful. There was one class that was like taught me a lot, and the rest of it was just so that I could get hired by the companies I wanted to get hired by.
Yeah, I think that there's a difference that what companies want and what we should strive for is to have an attitude of consistent learning.
Yeah.
And if you can instill that in your kids, and as a young person in their 20s and as they go to 30s, if you are always trying to learn more, you're on YouTube University, you're paying for coaching, you're going to seminars and masterminds, you're actively putting yourself in a place to use your words, to gain intelligence, to invest in intelligence. Some piece of paper from a school that you went to doesn't matter because you're getting an evolved person that can actually problem solve and be an expert at whatever they're being paid to do.
You know, the real smart move here is that someone needs to create independent universities that is not even a university, but it's actually a school.
Like Trump University was. I'm just kidding.
But there's a multi-million-dollar
Phoenix.
idea
We go University
here,
of Phoenix.
but
Is that what we're doing?
But there's an idea here to create actual tangible learning.
Right.
I'm just saying.
No, I agree with you.
All of it jumps up my tits for so many reasons. I almost don't want to touch it with a 50-foot pole because I don't want people in there. But I do think that we're addressing the wrong thing.
Right.
But government's too scared to go and fix the actual problem. And
Well,
also,
they're benefiting
I
off
just
the
need to
actual
remind
problem.
everyone that the government, the United States government, does not actually earn any money. Like, it's not their money that they're giving to you. It's all of
Either
it's our
borrowed
money.
or ours.
Yeah. So, like, I think that's also something that people forget. Like, oh, the government's helping me out. No, they're fucking not.
No, it's
Like,
in
your
the whole
neighbor
talk of
that's
like the
been working
billionaires.
till he's 70 years old, he's been helping you out. That's who's been helping out.
Yeah.
You're stealing from your community.
Dude, I love the talk of like, well, if they just would tax billionaires more, right? There's like, it's so funny. There's like 700, maybe 800 billionaires in the United States that are citizens that are taxable and everything. If you were to give away all of their wealth to the government, it wouldn't even cover 70% of what the government spends on a year.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so now it's gone. Where else now are we going to get our money? Well,
Okay.
So that's stand up.
Love it, guys.
Thank you for
Thank
coming on the
you.
show.
Yeah, thanks for having
where
me.
should people go if they want to be associated with you?
Just on my Instagram. This is Eleve_ by Beth C.
Okay.
That's it
Okay.
right now. Yeah, listen to my podcast.
And you guys know, if you enjoyed any part of the show, please share it. Please subscribe. Go to the YouTube channel. If you want to leave me a rating and review on iTunes, that'd be great as well. And thanks for tuning in.